I was in the newsroom when the alert came through. A single, chilling line on the internal wire. Confidential audio files linked to Trump campaign handed to FBI. At first, I thought it was a mistake, maybe another rumor spinning in the chaos of the election season. But within minutes, the newsroom lights dimmed. Editors rushed to their stations, and screens across the wall started flashing the same phrase. Developing story. FBI confirms receipt of classified recordings. I've covered dozens of political scandals, but this one felt different. The emails we'd received were encrypted, tagged with government digital seals. Someone inside the Department of Justice wanted this story out, and they wanted it out fast. The tapes, as we'd later learn, weren't just background chatter or campaign gossip. They were recordings allegedly made inside private donor meetings, conversations that could expose coordination with foreign entities and attempts to manipulate election funding laws. By midnight, I was standing outside the Trump campaign headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. The building was silent, but you could feel the storm brewing beneath the surface. A few campaign aides rushed out, avoiding eye contact, faces pale. One of them muttered, "They got everything, every word." That's when I knew. This was no rumor. The FBI's sudden involvement, confirmed minutes later by a Justice Department spokesperson, turned a quiet Wednesday into political Armageddon. The White House released no statement. Trump's lawyers went dark. And yet, social media was on fire. Hashtags like Trump tapes and FBI leak were trending globally within the hour. As the night deepened, I called one of my oldest sources, a former intelligence officer. He didn't sound surprised. "You think these tapes just appeared?" he said. "Someone inside wanted this. And it's not the FBI." That line haunted me for the rest of the night. If it wasn't the FBI, then who wanted Trump's campaign to crumble from the inside? I left the scene around 3 a.m. as black SUVs rolled up outside the building. Agents in dark suits entered quietly, carrying sealed cases. I could almost feel the weight of history pressing against my chest. This wasn't just another scandal. It was the beginning of the end, and I was standing right in the middle of it. By morning, the entire country was on fire. News channels were looping fragments of the leaked tapes, muffled voices, coded phrases, faint laughter echoing through static. None of it was verified, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. The words "foreign donors" and FBI investigation were now welded to the Trump campaign in every headline across America. I barely slept. At 6:30 a.m., and I was already back in front of the Arlington headquarters, microphone in hand, cold coffee in the other. Reporters from CNN, NBC, Reuters, and even Al Jazeera were shoulder to shoulder, waiting for someone, anyone, to step out and speak. At 7:04, the doors opened. A senior campaign advisor, Megan O'Neill, appeared, her face pale, eyes red from a night without sleep. She didn't answer a single question. "No comment," she repeated over and over, voice trembling. Then she disappeared into a waiting SUV, surrounded by men in black coats. The real story, though, wasn't out here. It was inside. Around noon, I received a message from a confidential source, someone who claimed to have worked in Trump's media division. "Meet me at the Marriott," the message said. "Don't record, don't bring anyone." I went, of course. That's what reporters do. The man was nervous, chain-smoking by the lobby window. "Those tapes," he whispered, "weren't supposed to exist. They were backups, internal recordings made for campaign documentation. But someone made copies. Someone close." "Close to Trump?" I asked. He nodded. "Closer than anyone should be." He wouldn't give me a name, but he slid a flash drive across the table. "Listen to this. You'll understand why the FBI got involved." Hours later, back in the newsroom, I plugged it into my laptop. The audio crackled, faint at first, then clearer. Trump's voice unmistakable. Another man, foreign accent, discussing financial commitments and strategic messaging. It was damning, even if taken out of context. And the fact that it was real, verified by acoustic analysis software, made my stomach twist. By mid-afternoon, the markets reacted. The Dow dropped 800 points. MAGA rallies planned for the weekend were canceled. Republican senators were demanding emergency meetings. I watched as the pillars of a once untouchable empire began to shake. Then came the leaks from within the FBI itself. Claims that agents had raided not only Trump's campaign office but also the homes of several key aides. One agent allegedly said, What we found goes beyond election law. In the newsroom, editors shouted across the floor, printers jammed from overuse, phones rang without pause. The country was unraveling in real time, and I was documenting every second of it. At 9 p.m., I went live for a special report. Behind me, the Trump Tower in Manhattan was bathed in the red glow of police lights. "We are witnessing an unprecedented political breakdown," I said into the camera. "What began as a leak has evolved into a full-scale federal crisis." But as I spoke, I couldn't shake one thought. This wasn't just the collapse of a campaign. It was a war inside the American political machine. Someone had orchestrated this, someone powerful, and I was determined to find out who. When the broadcast ended, my producer handed me a note. No name, just a single line written in black ink. "If you want the truth, follow the money. Start with the donors." That was the moment I realized the tapes were just the beginning. The next 48 hours were chaos disguised as journalism. Every network, every outlet, every desperate blogger was chasing the same ghost. Who leaked the tapes? My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Sources, politicians, former FBI staffers, all whispering half-truths and fragments of a larger conspiracy. But one name kept coming up in the static: Garrison Holt. Holt had once been Trump's chief of financial strategy, a quiet figure with a reputation for balancing impossible budgets. 2 years ago, he vanished from the public eye after a scandal involving offshore accounts. Now, his name was resurfacing in the middle of the biggest political implosion in modern American history. At first it sounded too convenient. A disgruntled ex-advisor turning on his old boss. It fit the Hollywood version of events. Still, I followed the lead. Through a contact in D.C., I obtained Holt's old business address in Georgetown. The office was dark, dust gathering on the windows, but a receptionist across the hall remembered him. "He came back last month," she said. "Different suit, same eyes. Said he was consulting for a national integrity project." That phrase lingered in my head all afternoon. National integrity project. It sounded like something born in the shadows of bureaucracy, a moral crusade with no public face. Back in the newsroom, I cross-referenced Holt's name through federal contracts. There it was, a consultancy listed under the Department of Justice's Independent Review Division, a government-funded watchdog quietly resurrected months before the tapes surfaced. My pulse quickened. If Holt was working for them, he hadn't gone rogue. He'd been recruited. By midnight, I was sitting in a diner near Union Station when an unmarked envelope slid onto my table. The waiter nodded toward the door, where a man in a gray coat disappeared into the rain. Inside the envelope was a single USB drive and a note that said, "You're getting too close, but if you want proof, play this." I hesitated, then plugged the drive into my laptop. The video was grainy, shot from a security camera. It showed Holt in a conference room, same gray suit, surrounded by 3 men whose faces were blurred. On the table, stacks of papers labeled Funding Channels 2024. The audio was faint, but clear enough to make my blood run cold. "We can't protect him anymore," one of the voices said. "The recordings are already with the Bureau." Then Holt spoke, calm, almost detached. "Then let the truth burn. I've spent my life building lies for him. It's time the country sees what I saw." The file ended there. I sat frozen, the hum of the diner drowning out my thoughts. Holt wasn't acting out of revenge. He was detonating a truth bomb built from years of silence. The following morning, I confronted the DOJ spokesperson. They neither confirmed nor denied Holt's involvement, but their expressions said everything. "National security matters," the spokesperson whispered, "can sometimes look like betrayal." Hours later, Holt appeared on live television. No PR team, no lawyers. Just him and a single microphone. His words silenced the nation. For years, I watched power eat integrity alive. I helped build the machine that sold fear and division as policy. These tapes are not about politics. They're about truth. The campaign isn't collapsing because of lies. It's collapsing because it finally faced them. Within minutes, Trump's campaign website went offline. Major donors froze their contributions. The party fractured in 2 before sunset. That night, I walked along Constitution Avenue, the air thick with sirens and disbelief. Protesters shouted on one side of the street. Supporters prayed on the other. The United States had turned into a living battlefield of ideals and anger. I sent my final dispatch before midnight. "This isn't the end of a campaign," I wrote. "It's the reckoning of an era where truth was negotiable." The tapes were never just recordings. They were confessions carved into history. As I hit send, my editor called. "We're pulling you off the story," he said. "Too dangerous now. There are people asking about you." I looked out at the Capitol dome, glowing faintly under the rain. For the first time in my career, I wasn't sure if the story had consumed me or if I had become part of it. Somewhere out there, Holt had disappeared again. No interviews, no trace. The FBI confirmed the tape's authenticity but refused to release their full contents. The government promised reform, the word every administration uses to dress up survival. But deep down, everyone in Washington knew nothing would ever be the same. I closed my notebook, left the city lights behind, and whispered to myself. The truth burned, and I was there to watch the flames.